Hello, student teachers. I hope you are doing well. Instead of giving you just a lecture on classroom management, I want to just kind of give everyone a personal video lecture where I talk to you about what's going on in student teaching in the month of March, which we're almost done with, and we're going into April. Everyone is moving towards their transition to out of student teaching and into the real world, which you feel like you're already in the real world. So this will be just kind of an impromptu lecture where I'm just going to tell you about what, after doing this for a decade, what we're seeing with student teachers, and especially with this third observation going on, and just generally where you should be in your student teaching experience. Now, of course, some of y'all have different university supervisors, and I know that they pretty much tell you the same thing generally, but I'll give you a general idea of what's going on in your classroom and in your setting. So I'm going to use a blank task stream assessment rubric as a guide. So this is, if you see that, this is just blank. I haven't scored it. No one's been scored, and no big deal. So I'm just going to walk you through some of the indicators and just give you an insight of what's going on and what you should be doing during your student teaching experience. So I'm going to get rid of the webcam, and then that way you can start seeing me, and we'll go to the slide. So the first thing we see is when we start looking at let's look at the task stream indicators. At this point, you should be very good and very effective with your lesson plans. So the first formative that everyone took in January or February, a long time ago, should have been, you were nervous, and the university supervisor came in, they sat down, and they looked at your lesson plans, and hopefully they gave you some insight and they kind of helped you out. And by now, you've already had your summative, and now you're rolling into your formative, or you've already had your formative. So you already know that by now your lesson plans should be very good. Top notch, you should be just nailing them every time. So that's a very easy indicator to pass. The diversity, the multiculturalism, KWLs, at this point you should really be relying more on assessments during your classroom. And hopefully you're doing a good job with that. As you know, as an educator, your students are being assessed every day, but we need to move away from teacher observations, teacher checklist. We need to start moving into know, want to know, learn, what I want to learn, KWLs, surveys, some kind of paper to pencil type of assessment where you're understanding what your students can or cannot do. Portfolios also work. We should really have documentation of where students are and where they're going to be and how they're learning throughout your class. Also, right now, you should be very good at student teaching. You should be very good at lecturing. You should be very good at teaching. You should be very comfortable in front of the class. So all the nervousness should be gone. You should no longer be nervous in the classroom, and you should be able to function and lecture as you wish. It should be something that's very easy to do. You should not be nervous in the school. So your lectures at this point, or any type of discussion with students, should be able to be free-flowing, and you should be able to bring past knowledge from past experiences. You should be able to go outside the textbook, and you should now start looking at things to teach the students that you've learned in college. So you really want to pull from other subjects. Your teaching procedures should be just wonderful. You should be able to flow from point to point, or what we call transitions to transitions. Whenever you have groups, you should be able to function in the group and then move from a transition to a transition. There should be less dead time. You should be obviously working bell to bell. Now, in the real world, when your university supervisor is not there, sometimes you take a little time and, worksheet time and all that. Well, of course, when the university supervisor is there, you should be functioning from bell to bell, working very well. Your time management should be very good. Procedures should be well outlined. You should be a well-oiled machine in that classroom. You should be able to teach, plan, and function as you have your sequence of events. Your assessment system should be in place. You should have documentations of your students, and you should be able to know when a student is not doing well in your class. Real easy. The plan differentiated learning, you should have all different kind of, and this is where usually with my students, I'll ask them to bring in a cooperative learning project or a cooperative learning lesson where students are doing group projects for short periods of time or for half the class or for all the class. And what I'm looking for that is whenever you have cooperative projects, Now, the thing about cooperative learning is, if you do not have a strong classroom management system in place and you try cooperative learning, the end result will be your classroom management system will be tested if you do not plan it well. So let me give you a real world example. If I'm teaching a class and I'm doing direct instruction and I'm not a good direct instructor and I stand up there and I'm nervous and there's long pauses, where there is a weakness, there will be an exploitation of your classroom management. So you always have to have a good classroom management system. Warnings, punishing students, doing whatever you have to do to keep that class in control. When you have an off lesson, then you're going to rely on classroom management. When you don't have an off lesson, you don't have to rely on classroom management. When you have strong transitions, when you have strong assessments and strong work, it should be fine. It should work very well. You should also talk to the students about what's going on. I see a lot of this, especially around the end of the semester. I see a lot of student teachers who say, okay, folks, we're going to teach this. We're going to do this assignment. You know what to do. Okay, class, we're going to do this group project. You know what to do. You really need to explain to the class what's going on. Right now, we're going to do this, and right now, every time. Because that way, even though the students, you assume they know, but they don't. And sometimes they forget. And also they have 6 teachers that day, and every teacher has a different style. So you need to make sure you explain your assessment systems to the students. Okay, y'all, we're going to do our homework, and this is what I'm going to be looking at for the homework, and this is how we're going to do this. I see homework assignments where the students are working on them, and teachers say, just write something. Well, that shows me that you didn't have a good assessment system. You've got to tell them what you expect and what you want graded and how you're going to grade it. That's the whole thing. Telling students just to put something down on paper, well, that's not an assessment system. We've got to have a strong assessment system. Otherwise, what are we doing? Formal assessments, pre, post, those are always good. When I walk into a successful lesson, I sit down, the person has their lesson plans, and I've seen some even give me pre-test. And they go, I pre-tested them yesterday, and this is what they know about this topic, and now today I made a modification. That was one of the ones that I automatically passed. It was so amazing. I sat down. I didn't automatically. I knew it was going to be an automatic pass. You just know. You can just sense it in the air. I got there, and they were like, well, 2 days before the lesson, they emailed it to me. So I didn't expect that. So I got a task stream notification, and I was like, okay. And then I got there, and they said, Dr. Ratliff, I did a pre-test yesterday of the material. It was on Hamlet or whatever. And I realized the students didn't understand Hamlet. And I was like, okay. So they said, I've modified my lecture. Here's my modified lesson plans. And I was like, wow. So I knew that they'd done a pretest. So it's those little things like that. And I was like, this is going to be good. That's when you sit back and go, this is going to be good. And they had like 3 objectives and enrichment remediation. And they had an assessment system in place. And they had backup objectives in case any of those didn't work. And I was like, wow. So this is just really strong planning, which led to a very effective lesson. So that's how that works. Written, oral, and nonverbal. You see that and you go, what does that mean? What I look at is, are you explaining things to people? Are you talking to students the way you're supposed to be doing? Do you write? Many times my student teachers don't write on the board. That's fine. Can you at least, do you have legible penmanship when you write on assignments? Stuff like that. Oral and written directions. Do you give clear directions? I hear this all the time. Break into groups. Okay, what groups? And also, we're going to break into groups now. Okay, everybody break into groups. Here's what we're going to do. Okay, I got my groups divided up now. Do the explanation before you break into the groups. Because once they break into groups, it's all chaos. So once you have their attention, use their attention. Items such as that. Enthusiasm. Now, this does not mean are you insanely happy. No. Are you enjoying teaching? Not that you have to be, but whenever you talk about the subject, are you making it interesting? Anyone can make Romeo and Juliet come alive, and anyone can make World War II come alive. Can you make some topics that are very boring to the typical student come alive? That's one of the things. And I get a lot of that, especially when you've been teaching 5 or 6 periods a day, last period of the day. It's hard to get that enthusiasm, but you've got to find that enthusiasm when you teach. Because if you don't, the students don't want to learn, and you know that. Opportunity for students to interact, to cooperate, to discuss. That's a big element to it. This is where we get into classroom management, obviously. This does not mean allowing students to just holler stuff or answer stuff. At this point, students should be able to participate in class, and when they participate in class, you should be able to give wait time and feedback to the students. Are you doing a good job at that? Do you have a strong knowledge of the subject? And that's the big thing. Uses a variety of appropriate teaching strategies. Cooperative learning, that's where we usually come with my second formal. I like to see a good cooperative learning project, or sometime in May, or sometimes even the summative. I like to see projects like that. Can you do a good job with that? Inquiry, simulation, after that. Provides learning experience developing individual needs and diverse learners. Enrichment, remediation. So many of my student teachers put up an enrichment and put up a remediation plan and never use it. And I'll sit there and I'll say, hey, you've got remediation on here. Did you use it? Oh, no. Why would you put it on there? Just so I had to. Okay. So those are always good questions you need to ask. Engage students in analytical, higher thinking, higher order questioning. Are you pushing the students mentally? And I see so many lessons towards the end of the semester where no one's pushing anyone at all. You're just sitting there going, okay, folks, we're going to do the same thing over. And the kids are just bored. And now, what many of my student teachers say is the kids are ready to leave. The kids are ready to walk away and all that. That's not the case. The students, yes, they want to graduate, and yes, they want to leave. But if you put some interesting material in front of them, they'll learn it. I know they will. I've seen it. And that's what many times we don't do. Maybe it's you that's tired and not them. You've got to push them mentally. Well, they don't want to learn. Have you tried it? Give them something difficult. Well, will that be on the test? Put it on the test. Input during lessons and allowing proper wait time. Family resources, you're going to that. We always mark that as target because we know you're doing open houses. We know you're writing letters home. All that. It's as simple as that. Monitors and adjust the classroom environment. This is where many student teachers are having trouble, especially towards the end of the semester. And the reason is they've let their guard down during the semester. They haven't put some of the rules they were supposed to put. Like they've allowed students to stand up at the end of class, and when the bell rings, they can just run out. Or they allow students to be on their cell phone or to eat in class. And people always say, well, my school allows them to eat. Well, okay. That's fine, but I mean, I've seen everything. I've seen it all. I've seen kids hit each other and push each other and just walk around. And the abuse of the bathroom pass. You know, a 17-year-old says, "Can I go to the bathroom?" No, you may not. And then the kid goes, "Why not?" No. There's an issue with that. There's an issue right there. You don't have to explain to that student why or why not you've made that decision. Okay, now if a student says, "May I go to the bathroom?" Yes, you may go, and thank you for asking. All right, then they go to the bathroom. Student comes back, and 20 minutes later, and you go, "Where have you been?" And they go, "I've been out." And you say, "You know what? You can't go tomorrow. You've abused it." And that's fine. You're going to have to set some of your rules and your parameters up. What I'm hearing from my student teachers and what I've heard for a decade is, they don't respect me. And I go, "Why don't they respect you?" And they say, well, because I'm a student teacher. Or it's this classroom mentor teacher. It's always like this. Okay, well, I don't agree with that. You are an educator. You have to expect respect. The problem is, in January or February, you let the students joke around. And now we're getting to March and April when the assessments get tougher. And we expect you to have all these problems fixed. And you didn't fix those problems. So you've got to expect respect. You've got to. If you don't, then you ruined it. And many student teachers get to this mindset of, I just got to get out of here and press the big old reset button. And then when I start my job, I'm going to be tough. You got to be tough no matter what. You got to be fit. I think that's a myth. That's what I really believe. If you've had chaos class because you've let stuff go, and you come in here on March 1st or April 1st, you walk in there and you say, "Folks, we're not going to do this." The kids are going to say, "What's wrong with you? Why are you acting this way?" All right, that's fine. So I don't want to hear it. April the 2nd, you act the same way. We're not going to put up with this. After a while, you get control back. If you expect it, you will get it. It's not if you lose it, you can never get it back. That's insane. If you expect it, you will get it. That's the difference. It's always that way. Um, we're at the point in student teaching where classroom management should not be a problem. You should expect respect. You should demand respect. And if you can't get respect, then what is going to happen when you get into the real world? Now, I've heard this one before. I hear this all the time. I'm dealing with seniors. They're different. So they're still coming to school. Expect it from the seniors, and they'll give it to you. Or I'm dealing with junior high. They're a bunch of kids. Expect it, they'll give it to you. You have to expect respect. Fostering appropriate student behavior, including individual situational needs. And this is also a big one right here. I see this one. This is the easiest one to fail in April. All right? Fairness, safety, respect. If we are observing you and we see a student bullying, pushing, hitting, telling another student to shut up, that's an automatic fail. You are not, if you don't correct it, obviously, you are not creating a safe environment. Students should never be allowed to come to a classroom and tell another student to shut up. They should not be allowed to hit a student. They should not be allowed to dominate another person's education. You should control that. And if you can't fix that, then you yourself are allowing the students to be bullied. You must create a fair environment in your classroom. Bullying cannot be tolerated. And I have seen it all. In my 10 years of doing this, I have seen student teachers bullied by students. I saw that. I saw that at, I will not name the school. Let me see. This was 2 years ago, and I saw it was a student teacher who just couldn't do it. She allowed a student to bully her, and what ended up happening was the student bullied her to the point where the teacher was afraid to correct him. So she corrected everyone else in the classroom. So the bully would pick on someone, and the student would get mad. So the student teacher would tell the student to quit, not the bully, but the other student. So she ended up failing her formative, and I said, you've got to correct that. And the classroom mentor teacher stepped in and was unaware that this was all going on, and pulled the boy aside, chewed him out, told him this is unacceptable, you will never act this way again. And she corrected the dynamic that had shifted, the dynamic of the bully had taken over the classroom. And the classroom mentor teacher took that back and fixed it immediately. And that's what I need all y'all to think about. If you are in a classroom that you are unable to control, that you have a student who is a trouble student, you need to rely on your classroom mentor teacher. You need to tell your classroom mentor teacher, I need you here to help me with that student. And I guarantee you they will. Many times you're afraid the classroom mentor teacher is going to think different of you. Sometimes you have to say, look, Billy's giving me trouble. I need help with this. This has got to be fixed. Otherwise, it's going to get out of hand. And if they don't believe you, then you've got grounds. But many times the classroom mentor teacher doesn't know that you're being pushed around and bothered by a student. Got to control it. Got to. Maximize time available for instruction, bell to bell. You should be going bell to bell. That's simple. Bell rings, you start. Bell ends, you're done. Now, I know all day, every day, you're not going bell to bell. But when a university supervisor shows up, it needs to be bell to bell. You got to make that bell to bell lecture. You got to. You got to nail it. And I've actually been in some classrooms before where, it's an hour and 50-minute block at whatever school I was at a long time ago. Hour and 50-minute blocks, about an hour into it, I was like, yeah, they're rolling pretty good. I'm going to get my stuff. I'm going to roll on out of here. I've seen the heart of the lesson. And then I started looking at the student teacher, and I realized that, they were done. They were done. So, we're an hour in. I've got 50 minutes to go, and that student teacher's done. So I realized the student teacher hadn't planned for the hour and 50. They had planned for the hour. So I was like, I'm just going to sit back a little bit and watch some more of it. And what happens then? Everything falls off the rails. The classroom's no longer, the activities aren't planned, the material's not planned, and they kind of just fall apart. And that happens a lot. So you really want to plan the full time. Plan bell to bell. All right? And that's the host, that's a 20-minute lecture of what we're seeing. You go formative, summative, formative, summative. Many of y'all are getting your final formative done. Sometimes university supervisors ask for different things when they want to see it, but at this point, you should be very functioning in your classroom. You should have a good control of your classroom. You need to keep your eye on the prize. You've got usually one more observation left, which is the summative. You should really be on top of things. And the summatives are generally, the last summatives are generally very good because, I'm going to do a great lesson, boom, boom, boom. But this third observation, the formative, many times people just they just phone it in, and you got to be on top of this. And I know you're tired and student teaching is hard, but hey, nothing in life worth having is easy to obtain. So you're really close. Make sure you're staying on top of these things. Make sure your classroom management should be working very good right now. Just warning, writing, or whatever assignment you got next, boom, 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 and you should be on top of this. Demand respect, and you'll get respect always. Be professional and demand respect. So I just want to give everybody a quick lecture. And there's no homework assignment with this. I may do a discussion board, I don't know, but this will be very simple. I just want to give everybody an idea of what's going on. Thank you for listening.